This is section 3.1, part 2. We're working the same kind of problem we just did. We are supposed to graph 6x minus 5y equal to 30. We are given ordered pairs that we need to complete, and then we will graph them and connect them and hopefully get a straight line. Remember, it's always x and then y. So this one is asking us to plug in 0 for x and see what we get for y. So that would be 6 times 0 minus 5y is equal to 30. Well, 6 times 0 is 0, and that just goes away. So really, I'm just doing negative 5y is equal to 30. So I need to divide both sides by negative 5 to get y is equal to negative 6. So a negative 6 goes right here. Let's go ahead and graph it. I'm going to use a different color here so it can show up a little bit better. 0 on the x, negative 6 on the y. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that is my first point. Okay, now let's do the next one. This one says plug in 0 for y. So that gives me 6x minus 5 times 0 is equal to 30. That cancels, so I have 6x equal to 30. Divide both sides by 6 to get x equal to 5. So 5, 0 is my next point. Go to 5 on the x, 3, 4, 5. 0 on the y. So that is, make sure I'm matching my points here, right here. Okay, so I suspect I know what my line is, but I'm going to keep going to figure out, to complete these. Okay, so let's plug in 3 for x. 6 times 3 minus 5y equal to 30. Okay, I'm going to slide this up a little bit. That would be 18 minus 5y is equal to 30. Let's subtract 18 from both sides. Negative 5y is equal to, that would be 12. Let's divide both sides by a negative 5. And I get y is equal to negative 12 over 5. This is an exact answer. This is likely what they want you to put in here. Okay, but we're going to have to graph this, so it will help us to have some sort of basic idea of what that is. So I'm going to take negative 12 and divide it by 5. So this is equivalent to negative 2.4. Okay. Now, there is a way to graph these within my math lab, but on paper, what we generally want to do is just to estimate this, okay? So I'm going to go to 3 on the x, which is right here, and then I'm going to go down about 2 and 0.4, so that's almost a half, so I'm going to estimate that to be right there. And it does line up. So we're good there. Okay, now I have one more. I need some more paper. So I'm going to plug in negative 2 for y. So that will be 6x minus 5 times negative 2 equal to 30. So this is 6x plus 10 is equal to 30. Let's subtract 10 from both sides to get 6x is equal to 20. Now divide both sides by 6 to get x is equal to 20 over 6 reduces to 10 thirds. So they're going to want 10 thirds right here because 10 thirds is an exact answer. But for graphing, let's get an approximation. 10 divided by 3 is 3.3. So I'm going to estimate my point. I'm going to go to 3.3 on my x. 1, 2, 3.3, let's say it's about right here. And then go down negative 2. It is very close to that third point we have, but then we can connect them. And we have our graph. And again, what we've just found is every single solution to our original equation. If we could read off, if we had the ability to perfectly read off any point on this line, we could plug it in and it would work. Okay, one thing I want to point out is that on both of these problems, they had us plug in 0 for x, 0 for y, 0 for x, 0 for y. And there's a reason for that. If you look at these, those were the easiest things to do. Plugging in 0 is always easy. It makes things go away, okay? So zeros are easy, and they're also easy to graph because they always end up on an axis, okay? So we have special names for these. The point where you cross the x-axis, this is called the X-Intercept. I ran out of paper here. Okay, that's the X-Intercept. And right here, because this is where it crosses the y-axis, this is the y-intercept. Okay, we're going to talk about how to find these because this is often an easy way to get a graph is to find your intercepts. You can always, when it comes to graphing, you can always just plug in points. Now here they gave you values to plug in, but you can make up your own. As long as it will fit on the graph you're given, you can plug in any number you want to. If you wanted to plug in negative 2.9 and get your, for x, you could do that and it would work. We're going to talk about easier ways to get this done, but really this is your fallback. Always just plug in numbers if you must, okay? All right, so let's talk about intercepts and how to find them easily. Okay. We talked about how they come when you plug in zeros. The point where a graph crosses or touches, and this becomes important later in the course, crosses or touches an axis. To find the x-intercept, you set y equal to 0 and solve for x. To find the y-intercept, you set x equals 0 and solve for y. So you're just plugging in your zeros and seeing where you end up. So on these problems, we're asked to find the intercepts and then graph. Now you're going to have to list your intercepts separately. And in my math lab, if you're asked to find the intercepts, those are the points you have to use to get your graph done. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to plug in x's. It doesn't really matter which one you start with. So let's say x equals 0. So if x equals 0, then I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Okay? If x equals 0, basically what I'm finding is, if I set x equals 0, I'm finding the y-intercept. Okay? Well, if x equals 0, I have 5 times 0 plus 2y is equal to 10. Now, I often think of finding intercepts as just covering up bits. If I'm plugging in 0, that means this whole term is going to go away, and I usually just cover that part up and see what I have left. I don't want to do that and confuse you, but that's essentially what's happening. I have 2y equal to 10, divide both sides by a 2, to get 5. So y equals 5. That means I have the point, my x is 0, my y is 5. Make sure that you put it x and then y. 0 on the x, 5 on the y is there. That's my y-intercept. Now let's find the other. Let's say y equals 0. And again, what's essentially happening is if I plug in a 0 here, that's going to go away. So I have 5x plus 2 times 0 is equal to 10. That just cancels out. So I have 5x equal to 10. Divide both sides by a 5. And you get x is equal to 2. So this would be the point. It's always x and then y. So 2, 0. So 2 on the x, 0 on the y is right here. Now we have 2 points, and 2 points is enough to graph a line. If you are confident in these values, by all means, just go ahead and connect them and you've got your graph. If you are less comfortable with your arithmetic, then you can plug in any other number you want to, find the X or Y. You can plug in any number for either X or for Y, do the arithmetic, find the other one, and you can check on your graph. Okay? One big warning. Okay? Do not write your answer as 2, 5. You are usually, not always, usually going to have 2 intercepts, and they will always have a 0 in them. You have 2 separate points here. This would be the point 2, 5 right up here, which is definitely not an intercept. It's tempting, but don't do that. Okay?